Your Excellencies, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, um, you know, when you hear so many things about yourself, you are thinking, oh God, I'm getting old really, because you need time for your work. So, of course, what I would like to say after all these words, probably the most important thing is that I have been always committed, really, towards towards the dialogue, towards the dialogue between peoples and nations and cultures, just because I believe in that. I just use different instruments, sometimes writing books, making TV programs or radio programs, or setting up a culture institute, or being responsible for culture diplomacy in my country of Hungary, or at the moment being an ambassador. Actually, I have been talking about the same thing all the time, just using different instruments. Um, uh, at UNESCO, the way we work is that we are looking for partners, countries. As you know, we have got at the moment 195 countries. And very often milestone international conferences pave the ways forwards in our work at UNESCO. And when we really met with the director of this wonderful institute just recently in Bucharest, I was talking about this very important initiative, what UNESCO has been working on, trying to lobby and trying to push within the member states the topic of culture as part of the 2015 agenda. And then he very kindly invited me here. So I'm very thrilled that I can talk to you, because I personally believe that this is a very important initiative. UNESCO has been working on that. We had a very successful and great conference in China, in Hangzhou, on this very topic. And we created the Hangzhou Declaration, which I would say is the first very important document which we hope will help us to push this issue towards the member states, towards the delegations sitting in the UN. As you may know, that we have got already science mentioned as an important tool of development and also intercultural dialogue. We have got education as a very important topic within the UN system, very visible, especially because Mr. Ban Ki-moon himself is totally committed towards education. He promotes the so-called Education First agenda, which is coordinated by UNESCO. And we just think that there are more topics, especially culture and sustainable development, which we should work on and which can help really in playing an important role in sustainable development. So I'm really talking tonight about culture and sustainable development. And if you are interested and if we have time, we can also talk a little bit about this Hangzhou declaration. I will introduce you which are the main topics which we have discussed in this very important milestone conference of UNESCO in China. And then probably you yourself in your surrounding, going all over the world, you will know about that, and you can also help us lobbying. What I'm trying now to do everywhere in the world, wherever I go, I'm trying to talk about these topics. Obviously, we all do that. And we are hoping that really in the 2015 agenda, culture and sustainable development will be able to play an important role. So let me start by talking a few words about why I really mean, why I really think and why I really feel that culture and sustainable development is so strongly related. Actually, I talked to you about this conference in Hangzhou, and we had more than 500 participants from all over the world. And just during this conference, I learned a beautiful word. This is an indigenous word from Australia. In Maori language, it's called papaho. And it means the treasure box. It's a beautiful word, and I was thinking in the conference that actually we all have our papao, so we all were able to open it, and we were all able to share it with each other. And this is the number one. This is really the starting point, I think, whenever we talk about, of course, intercultural dialogue. The first moment has to come, the first step has to come from ourselves. Whether we are interested in the other people or not, this is the question. If I'm interested in you and you believe in me, right, then I can hope in the future that you will be also interested in me. So I always would say this first step should be always done by the person and not waiting for the next person or another country or another culture. So in Hangzhou, of course, in China, I felt that that was a very appropriate place to talk about culture and sustainable development, because the role of culture and sustainable development at the level of the United Nations really belong to the member states, and we need very good examples to that. Now, I always felt that actually the Asian Chinese culture, made even richer by its historical tolerance towards other cultures and religions, contrasts with the rapid economic development that is fundamentally altering the physical as well as the cultural landscape of the region. In China, I felt that culture is firmly rooted in the identity and in the spiritual and intellectual aspirations of people, giving meaning to their common past and their shared future. I really felt that we can learn, we have to learn from these people who are really protecting their cultural identity, and they are working on that, on their everyday life. We always say in UNESCO, and that was a very important aspect of our work in the conference as well, that culture is, of course, our DNA. Now, we are trying to use this description more and more, and I just recently met Professor Watson, who is the father of the DNA, who was given the Nobel Prize, and I told him, do you mind that we use, of course he's a scientist and we are culture diplomats, you know, and probably serious scientists would say, you know, what do they want, these culture diplomats? So I asked Professor Watson, do you mind if we really use this phrase that culture is really our DNA? And he was thinking, well, what a good approach. So I think this is a great allegory that we all have our DNA, and that is why we really all have to protect our DNA. Now, I know that this lecture, what I'm talking about, is a little bit out of your topic because you were talking about human rights, but don't forget, at UNESCO we are working towards human rights because we believe that basic human right is the right for education, the right for protection your cultural heritage, the right, a basic human right is the protection of your mother tongue, the right is the protection of the diversity in the world. So in that sense, of course, we deal with that. And of course, in UNESCO, besides culture, education, and science, we are dealing with communication, with the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and in that sense, we are dealing with the human rights. I heard a very interesting phrase during this conference from Stephen Cole, who is a great friend of mine, used to be a colleague of mine. He is now chief broadcaster of Al Jazeera. Before that, he was working for the BBC and CNN as well. And he said that culture can be a real catalyst for peacemaking and peace building. But he also said that, of course, culture is a source of conflict resolution, but also a source of conflict. So we have to take it really seriously. We cannot not deal with culture as part of the importance of intercultural dialogue and as a relationship between the people. I really think, and I'm asking even you, wherever you go, whatever you do, wherever you are representing your values and your beliefs, that we have to all push together so that we could agree that the post-2015 development agenda must have culture as one of the basic pillars, because it is culture that nurtures those values that we as human beings need in order to give economic development a human face. When we talk about culture and development, global climate change and its impact on human life is an elephant in the room that must be addressed. We are facing a global environmental emergency. Ecological catastrophes on local and regional levels occur with increasing frequency. And due to the proven trends of global climate change, they will only get worse. We know that. So, driven by greed and rapacious materialism, which leaves less and less space for thinking with soul and heart, we have exhausted natural resources and destabilized ecological balance. Here, the need for value-based approach, based on respecting nature and acknowledging our indivisibility from it is, I think, all too apparent. These values are found in all cultural and artistic traditions around the world. Using these cultural roots, we have to relink the human with the nature and assign real value to the environment that nourishes us and sustains our healthy life. The unequal distribution of the benefits of globalization and the scientific progress, which continues to widen the social and economic divisions, depriving millions of people of their dignity and leading to tensions and violence around the globe. Often, global inequalities are perpetuated not only by the economic circumstances, but very often from the absence of ethical approaches, which are grounded in culture. However, sustainable development based on free market economies can in fact lift the global poor out of their conditions of vulnerability, but the free markets alone are not sufficient, I would say. My claim would be that we need to think unconventionally, starting from looking into our cultural traditions to redefine how we relate to each other and to the environment in which we live in. The thinking should start with and be based on the right type of values that underpins social justice and that can be found within our cultures. This is the type of thinking that lies at the heart of UNESCO and its noble mission. UNESCO is here to harness the infinite creative potential of human beings, rooted in the cultural diversity. The multicultural platform of UNESCO helps us expand the horizons of our thinking and seek solutions to our pressing problems in the richness of traditional knowledge through practices around the world. As I said at the beginning, I learned this word papao, and culture is like a papao. It's a treasury box full of unsuspected jewels, and I think whenever we open this box, we can find new and new ideas and new approaches which can really inspire each other. I would say cultural diversity, and this is the beauty in UNESCO, we celebrate cultural diversity. And cultural diversity should not be a burden. Cultural diversity should be a source of inspiration. So, dear conference, dear friends, if we can't see ourselves in the cultural context from which we come from, and if we lose our ties with our collective past, globalization and scientific progress will make us poorer and not richer. As our societies develop politically, technologically, and economically, it is essential that we understand and respect our own cultural identities. Only then can we feel respect towards others, and engage in building a pluralist, multicultural, global habitat. Precisely for this reason, the educational mandate of UNESCO is an imperative. Culture, of course, is not a means to an end. It is intrinsically valuable attribute of human experience that defines our identities. However, I would say that the Congress, what we had in China, the UNESCO Congress, made clear to everybody that culture is also a vector of development that contributes to the attainment of internationally agreed development goals and provides income-generating potential through cultural and creative industries. In 2010, Untitled Chapter and Development was adopted a resolution in the UN which reaffirms the role of culture in development and calls for its integration in global development policies. These two aspects of culture, I would say, are not mutually exclusive, but rather complementary. For millions of people around the world, culture puts the bread on the table. It contributes to income generation and employment. The culture sector plays an increasingly important economic role through cultural and creative industries, such as crafts, books, movies, fashion, music production. However, the role of culture in development is a relatively new concept and needs a deeper understanding through international reflection and analysis of the policies and practices in the area. We really felt that the Congress we organized in China would certainly be an important step towards this end. With a constitutional mandate to preserve the independence, integrity, and fruitful diversity of the cultures of its member states, UNESCO is the only intergovernmental organization with a specific technical mandate in the field of culture and 60 years of successful experience in this domain. And we strive to create the conditions for genuine dialogue and development based upon respect for shared values and the dignity of each civilization and culture. But dear friends, we have to build the case for the after 2015 agenda. And that's why I'm here, even talking to you and talking to everybody who has got the belief in our values and who can talk to other people as well, because we have to build this case so that after 2015, culture and sustainable development would be an important pillar in our future work within the UN system. And of course, if I talk about UN system, I'm talking about the countries all over the world which are members of this noble organization. Just to say an interesting example about our work in UNESCO, you know, we have this program to ask influential people becoming our goodwill ambassadors or artists for peace or global champions. And then they are bringing the messages, and through their work, they are helping us a lot. And I was really delighted in March to hear about a designation of a conceptual and multifaceted composer and conductor, a Chinese conductor called Tan Dan, as UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador. Why? Because in recognition of his efforts to promote intercultural dialogue through music, consciousness of the scarcity of natural resources such as water, and the diversity of languages, as well as for the dedication to the ideals and aims of UNESCO as an organization. Tan Dun is known for his creative repertoire that spans the boundaries of classical music, multimedia performance, and the Eastern and the Western traditions. And I really believe that today, more than ever, we need artists like him to promote the cultural aspect of globalization. Dear friends, I am thinking of just presenting a few lines of this so-called declaration, what we all agreed on in Hangzhou, because this is really our key document, which hopefully will be elaborated in the future and will be presented at the UN. And this Hangzhou Declaration really is a summary why we believe that culture and sustainable development should become an important pillar in the 2015 agenda. We recognize the important advances that have been made over the past decade by the international community at all levels in achieving the Millennium Development Goals and other internationally agreed development goals. And we really think that the time has come, building on these important statements and developments of principle and lessons learned for the full integration of culture through clear goals, targets, and indicators into agreed development strategies, programs, and practices at global, regional, national, and local levels to be defined in the post-2015 UN Development Agenda. We therefore call on governments and policymakers who will play a role in defining the post-2015 UN Global Development Framework and Sustainable Development Goals to seize this unique opportunity and give consideration to the following actions to place culture at the heart of future policies for sustainable development. Integrate culture within all development policies and programs. Number one. Mobilize culture and mutual understanding to foster peace and reconciliation. Number two. Ensure cultural rights for all to promote inclusive social development. Number three. Leverage culture for poverty reduction and inclusive economic development. Build on culture to promote environmental sustainability. Strengthen resilience to disasters and combat climate change through culture. Value, safeguard, and transmit culture to future generations. Harness culture as a resource for achieving sustainable urban development and management. Capitalize on culture to foster innovative and sustainable models of cooperations. Dear friends, these are our main issues we are working according to, towards, hopefully, this new agenda incorporated into the past 2015 agenda. And I just thought it was a good chance for me and an opportunity, and thank you for that, to talk to you about this new initiative of the UNESCO, because of course it's a global issue, it's a global initiative, and I truly believe that it is all about us, it's all about every single human being. It's about all the cultures of the world, it's about all the countries of the world. I'm coming to talk to you here from a country, my country is Hungary. Do I have the flag? Here is the flag, which has got a multi-layered richness of cultures. And I always say, you mentioned so kindly that I set up the Hungarian Culture Institute in London. My idea was that because we have got a culture which is at the same time open, but also at the same time able to inspire other cultures, it is a culture which at the same time protects the roots, and the traditions, but it's always interested in development. Because of that, I really believe that we have a lot of links towards the world, other cultures. And this is, I think, that everyone can look into his or her own culture. The question is how we can link and interlink each other cultures and how we can really work together. And we have to very often work a little bit above our own self-interest. We have to take decisions which are important for societies, for communities, for countries, for regions, and at the end, for the whole world. So we cannot work so anymore in the world that we would think only about our own interest. And UNESCO is an organization in which we are using the beautiful power of consensus. You know, UNESCO doesn't have any police power. We work towards finding the consensus, and because we can find the consensus, we can work together. UNESCO is helping really to use the convention, the substance of the conventions which the member states had signed, and because of these tools, we are working towards the same goals, what we really enrich our life and leave this world a better place for the future. So this is what I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry it's a little bit far away from your everyday discussion. On the other hand, I think when we talk about human rights, we should never forget about the rights to education, to the protection of diversity, to the protection of cultural identities. Without that, we cannot stand firmly on this world. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. It's like a family here. That's really nice.
That's true. No, we're trying to create the atmosphere. Darnell, can you turn on another microphone? Wireless. No, thank you. No, we do try to create the family environment here, and I think very much you are certainly an interwoven part of the ICD family, especially after the speech you just gave, which of course we fully support. I think there, as you rightly pointed out, globalization is not fair, and unless we actually do take measures to actually work, bringing cultures together, protecting cultures, preserving cultures, promoting cultures, there's a problem, and everyday languages are dying, everyday cultures are passing away, so I think it's vitally important. So of course the ICD fully supports this initiative for 2015 agenda. My opening question for you, and then I'd like to immediately give it to the audience, is let's assume that we're successful, and I can tell you now ICD will do what we can to make sure we're successful in 2015. What would you then envision as, let's say, the first step, or what would be the first chapter of, let's say, the UN after they accepted culture into the Agenda 2015? If you could do anything you wanted with it, how would that first chapter look like, let's say, in 2016?
As I said, we already have experiences and results in other parts of the soft power. Because when we talk about soft power, when we talk about soft diplomacy through soft power, we very often mention science diplomacy, we mention sport diplomacy, and mainly we really talk about education. Now, in the UN, since Education First agenda and since the Education for All global agenda, obviously the whole world, all the member states are working together in an international framework. First of all, according to the goals of the agenda. Let's take the Education for All agenda. Obviously, for that, we have got different goals in different parts of the world. We have got a lot of work to do in Africa. We have got a lot of work to do in parts of the world where girls or women have got not the same rights for education. So these initiatives, when will becoming as major global agendas, obviously will be able to attract all the countries and will able to attract also the countries interacting with each other. So we are very much hoping, obviously, if UNESCO, through UNESCO, the UN will take into account that culture can be part of the next developing agenda, an important player, then it means that all the people who are related to culture, all the people who are important creators, artists, and players of culture and arts will have a much more stronger possibility to be around, to be visible. And also, obviously, this is a very important issue for everybody, that the whole world would really appreciate all the initiatives and all the values what culture are, different culture are representing in the whole world. For us, as I said, culture is very important because culture is really the embodiment of the identities of the people. And if we believe that we have to protect the diversity, we have to protect the diversity around us in the nature, we also have to protect the diversity of the cultures, because this is really the issue, what then can create a more fair world. And I think this is very important for everybody today, especially young people. Very often we can see, feel insecure. And I always say that without knowing your background, knowing your culture, knowing your own language, you will be always afraid stepping out and being interested in the other cultures or in other parts of the world. So I think this initiative obviously will play an important role with the indicators, the measures, what culture can bring in the development in the future. And it's also a very important issue in terms of protecting the identities and the diversity of the world.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to 2015 and the years that will come thereafter. It's now your chance, ladies and gentlemen. Questions or comments to President Bogyay? Who would like to go first? As always, if you could briefly stand and introduce yourself before posing the question, that would be great.
First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for your words. In Article 13, my name is Maytham Al-Salman. I'm from Bahrain Interfaith Center. In Article 13, in the Universal Declaration of the Unesco for Cultural Diversity, it clearly states that cultural diversity cannot be preserved without true respect of Article 18 and Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is very much linked to freedom of expression, etc., etc. And as far as I know, there is the Universal Declaration of Cultural Diversity of 2001, and there is the Cultural Diversity Convention of 2005.
Exactly.
As far as I found out, there are 182 countries which have signed up for the convention. Countries like Myanmar, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and many examples of countries which do not allow freedom of expression, and whereby cultural diversity, according to international reports, is not respected. The question is, what is the role of the UNESCO over here when there are countries which have signed up for the convention, and not only the declaration, which is universal again, countries which have signed up for the convention. However, cultural diversity is not respected in these countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The answer is very similar to the answer what I gave to the respected gentleman before, because I think the step one is that we have as many countries, as many we can, signing these declarations, and in that sense, they will become part of really this circle. We know that we have to measure how freedom of expression, freedom of speech, protection of cultural diversity, and all the issues related to the conventions are dealt with by the governments. And then, as I said, because it is an intergovernmental organization, we have got ongoing talks, meetings, speeches, conferences about that. We can only highlight the importance. We can talk about that. We can question it. But as I said, finally, it will be up to the governments, up to the nations, the countries, to decide how to use these international tools. But I would like to say that the development of humanity is an ongoing process. And I think there are a lot of segments in our life which are much more developed in these fields as they were, let's say, 60 years ago or even 40 years ago. So UNESCO will never give up the noble agendas. And obviously, whenever we, for example, having international days, we are highlighting the importance of a topic. Whenever we are talking about the importance of protection of cultural expression, the diversity of cultural expression, then we use different indicators, we use different measures, and of course we are sharing these indicators and measures with each other. The protection of the diversity means also, for example, protection of multilingualism, protection of the languages. We are talking about 6,000 languages today, which we are monitoring. We create the so-called interactive endangered language map. And through that, we indicate where the languages are in danger. And of course, if we don't take it into seriously, by the end of this century, we can lose half of these languages, although these languages very strongly are related to the identities of the people, to the culture of the people, to the creativity of the people. So UNESCO is raising these agendas, raising these topics, and obviously in our everyday life, we are working according to these lines and agendas with the governments as well. And I see the development. It's a slow process, but I am not pessimistic because I can see the development even with the languages. We can even change and reverse these directions if we can pressure or we can pursue the governments to use different policies in order to that. This is exactly what we are doing in terms of protecting the identities, the diversity, and obviously freedom of speech, freedom of expression, through capacity building in the media, through capacity building in different parts of the world. I think we are creating a dimension of new professionals who are then promoting these ideas and also promoting these values for the young people and the next generation. It is an evolving process, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your fine presentation. I'm from Croatia. We are neighbors. And I can sign all your words you said as mine. I'm interested in the question of protection. UNESCO is meant to be institution, organization to protect. My country is third in the ranking in the world after China and another country in protecting under UNESCO non-material goods.
Yes, you are doing very well.
We are doing very well.
Very well.
Now is coming something what is not so nice. Dubrovnik, the jewel of our architecture, and cathedral in Šibenik, also in Dalmatia, have been under protection of UNESCO. And we are proud and happy about that. But what happened? In 1991, there was a barbarian attack from another side over the hill of the mountain, hitting both cathedral in Šibenik and Dubrovnik on the 6th of December, which is Nicholas Day, St. Nicholas, the day when people are giving presents to their children, their beloved, mostly children. Dubrovnik got an attack, such a big event that, for instance, Inter-University Center, which is international institution, well organized, have been hit so badly that it has been burned down to the bottom. My point is, it's so pity that at that time, the world, the United Nations Security Council have not done enough to protect its own value. Dubrovnik is under protection of UNESCO, and it did not preserve it from being almost destroyed. Fortunately enough, the walls are very strong, so they cannot be destroyed fully. My question and suggestion and comment after your present ideas on protection, the world, and we are with the Academy and Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, the world have to have better protection. UNESCO is doing fine by putting cultural values under protection. It should be preserved for the future. If it is so, and it is, United Nations and the world community should work in a way, in a direction to preserve at least, they are sacrosanct, the values that has been under protection of UNESCO. That should be primarily protected in the first place. And this is what is my message, namely, you in UNESCO are doing a very fine job by giving this protection. What is missing is that from time to time, we have destruction of the values. In Mesopotamia, in Iraq and other places, most of the enormous amount of the historically cultural monuments have been totally destroyed. We need the world of better protection for peace, for cultural diplomacy, for the whole population, for the values of our civilization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I fully agree with everything what you said, Your Excellency. What I would like to say that this is, first of all, really Croatia is doing so well because, as we all know, to put an item under protection, either on World Heritage list or the Intangible Cultural Heritage list, it means a lot of work in the country itself and a lot of lobbying. And I have to tell you, Croatia is really doing wonderfully well. You have a lot of items on that. You are promoting these items very well. You have a very able, wonderful representative, my great friend Alida Matkovic, who is really working very hard, and the National Commission and everything. This is also a question, actually, how a country can be really well represented in UNESCO. It has to have a strong National Commission back in the country. I visited your country officially last year. So I went to Split, I went to Trogir, I went to Zadar because of the World Heritage Sites. I visited, I know about the difficulties, for example, in Split. This is a difficulty everywhere in the world that you have a protected World Heritage Sites. So how much should it be a museum and how much should it be a living space? How much can be done and how much cannot be done? So these are, of course, ongoing issues there. What you also tackled, that what happens if there is a war? Now we face with this very dramatic question every day. We faced with this question in Mali. We know what's going on in Syria, in many parts of the world, and what UNESCO, of course, can do. We don't have, as I said, not even police, we don't have an army. So we raise our words, we talk about that, we raise these issues at the governments, we raise these issues on the in the international communities. And of course, we have also conventions about illicit trafficking of cultural goods. So there are other conventions which are helping us. But we also have got positive results, like the bridge in Mostar, which has been protected later, of course, with the help of UNESCO. Or I just came from Gorée, from Senegal, where we have the famous island from where for 300 years slaves were transported to all over the world, and the buildings and the whole island was in danger. So UNESCO managed really to create a memorial there, which was nearly protected as an island. So we can give the expertise, we can give, of course, the work of the experts. We are sending missions there. We are trying to send missions to all the difficult areas and parts of the world. We are, of course, sending missions to areas where we have peace, but the monuments are still in danger, because these are different issues. But it's more a mental thing, isn't it? I mean, we can raise the awareness what was going on in Mali. And now, actually, UNESCO is doing a lot of work trying to protect, for example, with the government of France, which is very active in this work at the moment. And we are raising always these issues on the international community. But, Your Excellency, this is actually a big question. Who can do anything if there are people who don't really care about World Heritage, and where wars are going on and not really thinking about what World Heritage was? Because World Heritage, after all, is a notion which should be considered as a heritage of humanity. And if anyone is destroying a World Heritage part, is not destroying a part of a country, but destroying a part of the whole world. And this is rather an issue, I think, which has to be understood everywhere, that when something or someone, or even intangibly a tradition or anything is on the heritage list, then it means that it doesn't represent only one country anymore, but it represents the value of the humanity. And I think this is really the beautiful message of the World Heritage List. But this is very difficult what we can do in conflict areas. That's why we concentrate in conflict prevention, of course, conflict solution through different vehicles. But this is a very big question. What can be done? How to protect really many 100 years old World Heritage sites if there is a war? So that's why we have to work against the war, because that's the only thing what we can do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
If you agree to keep it to a very short question, and if you agree to a very short answer, we can allow a final question.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna any question. Just I would like to congratulate UNESCO for 3 reasons.
Where are you from?
I am from Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, very nice to see you.
I am a journalist, and I used to work for the Prime Minister previously. I was Assistant Press Secretary to Prime Minister of Bangladesh. 3 reasons. Number 1 is because we are talking about culture, and one is the most important thing, culture is language. Bangladesh is the only country who fought for the language movement I already mentioned my previous speech, that in 1952, 21st February. And UNESCO declared that day is an International Mother Language Day. So,
and I'm just telling you that this year Bangladesh was organizing this event with Hungary together.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
Good to know.
And we also managed to get other countries on the board, because my idea was that it shouldn't be a day only for Bangladesh. It was initiated by Bangladesh, but this should be raising the awareness in the whole world about the importance of protecting of the mother tongue. I thank you for that. Bangladesh plays a very important role in that. I know
number
that.
two
Yes.
is more than 30 million students in our countries. They are getting free books from the UNESCO. This is and not only Bangladesh, many underdeveloped country, they are getting books, and UNESCO is doing tremendous, and UNESCO's effort is, I have to congratulate, I have to thank UNESCO, that UNESCO is doing as best as they can in my country. And thirdly, because culture, and we are talking about the sustainable development, so, and we are talking about human rights. So currently, what's going on in Bangladesh, I would like to request UNESCO to look into it regarding human rights situation, but currently is very severe situation we are facing, and everybody knows it. Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, the US State Department. So I'd like to request to UNESCO to look into it in this matter. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good wishes for 2015.
Thank you very much. You should protect it as well now. All the countries should protect it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Maybe on that note, I would like to ask everyone to please join me in expressing our sincere gratitude to President Bogyay for the concluding keynote address. Thank you.